video will be a representation of the various diasporic relations and mixed identities that took place in the ancient world. At the same time, it will make preliminary connections to our present world.
Cultural identity and self-representation in ancient societies, according to 19th century historiography, focus on the perception of identity linked with language, territory, and the nation. Identities were expressed through arts, politics, and religion.
Collective self-representations is an important notion that was brought up by modern German historiography, which emphasized on the complex process of differentiating between arguments of what was our identity and the identity of the other. Mixed identities consist not of a complete cultural assimilation, but rather of a cultural overlap revealing hybrid cultures and identities through different historical contexts. And thus, cultural identities are fundamentally dynamic, which includes constant negotiation for space, time, and visibility. Historians and archaeologists took various approaches in studying the process of cultural diversity and identity within diasporic contexts. Corinne Bonnet suggests that domination and resistance are an integral part of this process, which is always renewed and rebalanced, whereas Quinn mentions that asserting domination is not the only means to express difference and superiority of a culture. She suggests that the reinforcement of identification is through cultural symbolisms and practices.
This cultural differentiation was expressed and is still present throughout the globe, especially within ancient modern Mediterranean spaces such as Pompeii and Carthage, present-day North Africa.
Historians have investigated various archaeological evidences to see whether they can be used as cultural markers or define particular ethnic groups. Accordingly, the Tophet, a sacred place dedicated to the Phoenician god Balham, containing a chapel and pottery urns and burials, is most notably seen by ancient and modern scholars as a distinct feature of the Punic culture and identity. More importantly, the Tophet brings to attention the construction of social and cultural identities within colonial and diasporic contexts. Rather than defining a core Punic identity, Quinn explores how the Tophet is a construction of collective identities, in which various cultural and religious interactions are evident. Quinn's examination of Tophet allows us to see that it is difficult to distinguish clear differences of identification and identities within diasporic communities that contain the presence of visible economic, cultural, and religious interactions between ethnic groups.
Pompeii was an idealized Roman city that was marked by successive waves of domination. It had a strong presence of outsiders and cultures that overlapped and superimposed one another. Earlier cultural layers survived not merely because the population survived, but rather due to the cultural mixtures in itself that drew immigrants into the area. Pompeii built its cultural identity not by seeking to differentiate itself from Greek neighbors, but by learning their cultural languages, and did so because the Etruscans encouraged them to do so by their own example, as indicated by Wallace. Primary example of this Greco-Roman mixed identity can be seen through the two temples devoted to Greek divinities Apollo and Athena. The presence of these temples is a clear indication that a Greco influence in a Roman city. Pompeii gained Greek cultural influence due to its proximity in the trading ports and the presence of Greek commodities. Although Pompeii was not Greek in its foundations, the presence of Greco-cultural influences were ever present throughout various institutions such as sacred temples and others like the gymnasium. We are able to find echoes of this theme of diaspora and mixed identities in today's world through the example of the 2014 film entitled Pompeii. The film is a contemporary representation of the city of Pompeii that examines the social tensions that exist within the city and also its geographical circumstances. However, with respect to this week's theme, the focus of the film will be on the cultural diversity expressed throughout the film's trailer. Throughout the short clip, there is a strong presence of different peoples, such as the Etruscans, Romans, and Samnites. However, the Greek culture can also be seen within it and within a clearly labeled Roman city. The trailer itself states, that slaves from all corners of the Roman world gathered in Pompeii, which reveals that the city is a hybrid city of different Roman cultures. However, Greek cultural flares depicted throughout the trailer are not easily missed. The most important cultural aspects depicted in the trailer belong to the Greeks are the architectural monuments such as the Gymnasium. The Gymnasium, or amphitheater, is a fundamentally Greek institution. However, its presence came quickly spread through the Roman world through cities such as Pompeii. By making reference to the fundamental Greek institution of the Gymnasium in the trailer of Pompeii, the representation and understanding of Pompeii today is in fact that it was a culturally diverse entity.
Representation is an important aspect that is brought up by historians and archaeologists, expressing a complex process of mixed identities that are fundamentally dynamic, like the Tophet and the Gymnasium as sacred spaces and entertainment. This portrays the reinforcement of cultural symbolism and practices, ultimately expressing and revealing hybrid cultures and identities, thus negotiating for space, time, and visibility.